There is something in you that words have never fully explained. A presence, a sensation, a kind of quiet inner pressure that pulses, not in your mind but in your soul. You feel it every time you try to be like everyone else. In rooms filled with noise, you shrink. In conversations that lack depth, you disconnect. In places crowded with surface energy, your spirit quietly begs for silence, for space, for truth. And maybe for years you believed that the problem was you, that it was anxiety, shyness, social awkwardness, or worse, a defect you needed to fix. But what if I told you it was never a flaw? What if that discomfort wasn't rejection, but revelation? What if the thing that has always made you feel different, too quiet, too sensitive, too out of place, was never the evidence of your brokenness, but the first clue of your calling? Listen carefully. There are people walking this earth with invisible marks. Not everyone can see them, but the spiritual realm recognizes them immediately. They are the chosen ones. And one of the signs they carry, often physically, sometimes energetically, is the mysterious appearance of the letter M, or the crescent moon drawn into their hands. Not as tattoos, not as birthmarks, but as spiritual seals hidden in plain sight. You may have one. Or maybe you've always felt it etched into your life in other ways. In your perception, your sensitivity, your inability to tolerate superficiality, your relentless pull towards something deeper, higher, truer. The reason you never fit in is because you were never meant to. And no, that's not some poetic consolation. That is the architecture of your assignment. The chosen are not called to blend in. They are called to break patterns, see what others ignore, feel what others suppress, and carry light into places where darkness has lived undisturbed for far too long. But before you can be sent, you must be separated. Before you can speak, you must be silenced. Before you can lead, you must be emptied. That is why your path has never looked like anyone else's. Why relationships ended without warning. Why doors closed that were wide open for others. Why loneliness followed you even in rooms full of people. Why you always felt different. It was never punishment, it was preparation. Heaven's way of whispering, you are not like the rest. And now you're here, reading this, not by chance, not by accident, but because your soul is remembering something it always knew, and everything that once confused you is about to make sense. But first, let's do something powerful, something symbolic, something sacred. If what you've just read resonates with you, if it speaks to places you've never been able to explain, if your body feels calm, but your heart beats louder, write the number 111 in the comments right now. Not for me, for you. 111 is the number of alignment, of spiritual awakening, of mission remembered. By writing it, you're not just commenting, you're declaring, I am ready to know who I am. I am ready to walk in what I was born to carry. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. This space was created for you, a sanctuary for the marked, the misunderstood, the awakened. Here, you won't be told to dim your light. You'll be reminded how to protect it, how to expand it, and how to live in full alignment with the sacred frequency you carry. Take a deep breath, because what you're about to uncover next, about the letter M, the crescent moon, and the real reason you've always felt set apart, may change your entire understanding of your life until now. Your soul is not confused. It's being called. And now, you're beginning to answer. There are signs that the body carries not for beauty, but for destiny. Marks that appear not to decorate, but to declare. Subtle lines, curved symbols, strange shapes etched into the skin, often dismissed as coincidence, but never placed there, without meaning. And among these sacred symbols, two stand out across time, cultures, and spiritual awakenings: the letter M and the crescent moon. They are not random. They are not trends. They are not just part of your palm's anatomy. They are spiritual signatures. The M, a letter that has echoed in ancient languages, divine archetypes, and sacred names. From Miriam to Mary, from Michael to Metatron, this letter has always carried the frequency of those who walk with divine purpose, those who stand between worlds, between heaven and earth, between what is seen and what is hidden. The crescent moon, the oldest celestial symbol of intuition, transformation, and sacred timing. It marks those whose spirits flow in rhythm with divine cycles, those who do not rush with the world, but move when heaven moves, those who shine brightest in darkness. If you've noticed these signs on your hands, or if you've felt them carved into your spirit, then understand, they are not accidents. They are assignments. To carry these marks is to walk with a call that predates your birth, before your first breath, before your name was chosen, before your voice ever made a sound. The universe marked you. You were encoded with a spiritual frequency that could not be replicated, imitated, or erased. You were chosen, and not by the standards of men, not for status, fame, or comfort, but by God, for clarity, for impact, for truth. This is why your life has always felt different. While others blended in, you watched from the edge. While others celebrated fitting in, you felt more and more disconnected. Not because something was wrong with you, but because something sacred was hidden in you. These marks, whether visible or invisible, are not symbols of identity. They are portals. They open something ancient within you. They activate memories buried in your DNA. They awaken the seer, the healer, the light-bearer you were always meant to be. But with every divine mark comes a divine responsibility. You were not marked for comfort. You were marked for mission, and those who carry heaven's seal cannot walk the same roads as those who do not. Your path will be narrower, your silence deeper, your separation more intense. Why? Because before God sends you into the world, He sets you apart from it. The mark is a reminder, a signal to your soul that you must not forget who you are, not in the noise, not in the chaos, not even in the loneliness. And here's the mystery few understand. You don't have to believe in the mark for it to be real. You don't have to see it for it to be active. You don't have to explain it to anyone, because it wasn't meant for the crowd. It was meant for the called. And if you're still reading, still listening, still drawn in by this message, then deep down you already know you are one of them. This is why certain places feel wrong even when they look right. Why your body reacts when your spirit is misaligned. Why some people disappear from your life as if pulled by an invisible hand. It's the mark at work. It protects what is sacred. It redirects what was never meant to stay. It activates the shifts that lead you closer to truth, even when they hurt. So next time you look at your hands, don't just see lines, see language, see legacy, see light. Because the M and the crescent moon are not just etched into your palm, they are echoes from heaven, whispers from before time, reminders that you were seen, selected, and sealed for something far greater than this world could ever define. There's a pain that doesn't scream, a discomfort so quiet, most people miss it. But not you, because you felt it your entire life. That invisible distance between you and the rest of the world, even when surrounded by family, even when loved, even when everything seemed fine. You felt like a guest in rooms you were born into, like a soul with no manual for how to belong. While others ran toward connection, you hesitated. While they dove into the noise, you longed for silence. And you probably asked yourself, what's wrong with me? But here's the truth no one told you. Nothing was wrong. Everything was sacred. Your discomfort was not a flaw. It was a filter. It was heaven's way of setting you apart before you even knew what you carried. You didn't reject the world. Your soul was simply never designed to conform to it. From an early age, you noticed what others ignored. You questioned what others accepted. You sensed things that were never said. And that made you different. Different in ways you couldn't explain. Different in ways that made others uncomfortable. Different in ways that made you feel like an outsider in your own life. But this difference was not rejection. It was refinement. You weren't left out. You were lifted out. And the reason you never felt at home in this world is because your spirit wasn't built for it. You were sent here with assignments, not attachments. And those who carry missions from above will always feel misaligned. With the systems below, yes, you tried to fit in. You mirrored others. You smiled when it hurt. You went along even when your heart whispered, "This isn't you." But every time you tried to shrink to fit, you broke a little inside, because the soul of the chosen one was never made to blend in. It was made to stand apart. And the pain you felt in trying to conform wasn't failure. It was your inner, truth-resisting distortion. Let that sink in, that unease you've carried. It wasn't insecurity. It wasn't introversion. It was spiritual incompatibility. You're not meant to match the frequency of everyone around you. You're meant to shift it. That's why you've always been more sensitive, more reflective, more spiritually alert. Why you couldn't ignore red flags. Why your body responded to energy before your mind could explain it. You weren't being dramatic. You were being divinely designed. And yes, that design required separation. Because clarity cannot be formed in chaos, truth cannot grow in environments built on illusion, so God pulled you away, not to punish, but to preserve. That loneliness you felt as a child, it wasn't abandonment. It was an early activation of your discernment. Those friendships that faded without warning. That job you lost. That group you were never accepted into. Every no, every closed door, every silence was a yes in disguise, a yes to your protection, a yes to your realignment, a yes to your purpose. You weren't rejected by people. You were redirected by heaven, because the mission you carry cannot survive in every environment. It needs quiet to grow, it needs solitude to sharpen, it needs space to expand, and that space often looks like loss at first. But the deeper truth? Your soul has never been lost. It's been hidden. Hidden like treasure, hidden like a seed, hidden like light waiting for the right time to shine, and now that time is near. So if your life has been marked by a series of painful whys, why me? Why now? Why so alone? Let this be your answer. You were never out of place. You were simply out of season. But the season is shifting, the veil is lifting, and everything that made you feel too much will soon be the reason you become someone else's permission to awaken, because that sacred discomfort was never a curse. It was a compass, leading you to where your soul belongs. There is a kind of training that doesn't happen in classrooms, temples, or crowded gatherings. It unfolds in silence, in the unseen corners of life, in those long nights when you felt forgotten by the world, and yet mysteriously watched over by something greater. That training is called solitude. And if you've lived it, you already know. It does not come to harm you. It comes to prepare you. What appeared to be abandonment was in truth divine strategy. The loss of friends, the closing of doors, the distance from crowds, none of it was random. Heaven never wastes a season of silence. When God chooses a soul for a sacred mission, the first thing he does is pull that soul aside. Not to punish, but to protect. Not to isolate, but to initiate. You were not excluded, you were recruited. In solitude, distractions are stripped away. The noise fades, And what remains is the pure frequency of your own spirit awakening to its true resonance. You begin to hear with new ears, to see with new eyes, to feel with a depth that startles even you. It's there, in that quiet place, that discernment is born. A discernment so fine-tuned it cannot be learned in books or borrowed from others. It must be forged through the fire of stillness. Solitude is not the absence of people. It is the presence of God in his most intimate form. And once you've touched that space, once you've heard the whisper of the divine when everything else was silent, you will never again crave the noise. You will no longer beg to belong where your soul was never meant to fit. That is why crowded rooms feel suffocating, why shallow conversations drain you, why you're often misunderstood even by those closest to you, because you are not here to echo the voices of the world. You were sent to carry a different sound. And to carry it well, you had to be set apart. You had to be emptied of the world to be filled with heaven. And yes, it hurt. Yes, there were nights you doubted everything, but something in you refused to give up. Something deep and ancient knew that this silence had meaning. And that knowing, that quiet, persistent fire inside you, it was the presence of your calling, growing in secret. So if you felt alone, it's because you were being surrounded, not by the visible, but by the sacred. The angels stood closer than ever in your isolation, the heavens leaned in, and your soul, stripped of distraction, began to remember. And now that you're awakening to this truth, it's time to declare it. If this message touched something you've never been able to explain but always felt, leave a comment saying, "I was never alone." Let these words affirm your process. Let them echo into the spiritual realm as a confirmation that what once seemed like pain was in truth preparation, a holy kind of protection that only the chosen will ever truly understand. You don't need to speak to be heard. You don't need to explain to be understood, because the truth is, your energy speaks louder than any voice ever could. And those who are spiritually aware can feel it the moment you enter a room. You've likely noticed this, how some people seem instantly drawn to you, while others grow uncomfortable in your presence without you saying a word. This is not about your appearance, your posture, or even your personality. It's about the frequency you carry, and that frequency, it carries memory, spiritual memory. It carries divine codes, imprints of your mission, and the resonance of every spiritual battle you've overcome just to be here. Your presence is truth. Not the truth that convinces, but the truth that confronts. Without intention, you expose what's false. You reveal what's misaligned. You mirror what others have avoided seeing in themselves. And that's why, often, your energy is met with contradiction, admiration, and resistance in the same breath. This is the paradox of the chosen one. Your presence comforts the broken but disturbs the dishonest. It soothes the wounded but unsettles the unaware. You're not trying to challenge anyone. You're not trying to be intense. But when you carry spiritual weight, the atmosphere around you shifts, because truth cannot enter a room without shaking loose everything that hides from the light. Have you ever been told you're too intense, too deep, too much? That your silence is intimidating, or that your gaze feels like it sees too far? These are not criticisms, they are confirmations. Confirmations that your energy is piercing through illusions others are still trying to maintain. You see the lie behind the smile, you feel the sadness behind the laughter. You notice the tension that others ignore. You are designed to perceive what others pretend doesn't exist. This is both a gift and a weight, because it means you're constantly navigating environments that feel false to your spirit. You're constantly sensing what isn't said, feeling what isn't visible, and interpreting what no one else is even aware of. And it can be exhausting, but it is also sacred. Your very presence serves as a spiritual mirror. For those ready to grow, it inspires transformation. For those resisting change, it triggers discomfort. But either way, you awaken something, because your frequency cannot go unnoticed. It was made to disrupt darkness and reveal alignment. You were not made to adapt to broken systems. You were made to break them, quietly, humbly, without needing applause, simply by being who you are, where you are, fully aligned. And that is why God refined you in solitude. That is why you were hidden. So when your presence finally emerged, it would carry clarity, not confusion. Purity, not performance. Truth, not noise. There is a fire inside you that was never meant to be tamed, only tempered, so that when it burns with purpose, not destruction. So remember, if your presence changes the atmosphere, if your silence stirs the room, if your energy reveals what others fear, it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're finally walking in the fullness of what you carry. There are moments when you wish you didn't feel so much. You wish you could walk into a room and not absorb every silent pain, every suppressed emotion, every unspoken tension. You wish you could simply enjoy a conversation without feeling the energetic weight behind each word. You wish your heart didn't ache for those who can't even see the truth that's hurting them. But your soul doesn't know how to pretend. And maybe, for a long time, you saw this as a weakness. Your sensitivity, the way you cry at things others overlook, the way you instinctively sense when someone's lying, even when they smile, the way your body reacts before your mind can rationalize what's wrong. You've tried to suppress it. You've tried to toughen up. You've even wished you could be more like them, detached, unaffected, light. But what you carry is not fragility, it is spiritual intelligence. You were designed this way. Not to be broken by the world, but to be protected from it. Your sensitivity is your radar. It's how your soul navigates terrain that words cannot describe. It's how God speaks to you when logic fails. It's how you know what to avoid and what to embrace, even when everything on the outside says otherwise. This is why your body reacts to certain people with sudden fatigue. This is why some places feel heavy, even if they look beautiful. This is why certain conversations leave you anxious for hours. You are not imagining it. Your nervous system is attuned to energies that most people don't even recognize. Your heart is fluent in a language others have never learned. And yes, it's a burden. But it's a sacred burden, because it keeps you aligned. It keeps you from settling for what isn't true. It pulls you away from environments that could corrupt your essence, and it draws you toward the people, spaces, and paths that carry the same frequency as your mission. This kind of perception cannot be bought. It cannot be taught. It is inherited from the spiritual realm, gifted to the few who have been called to walk with divine clarity. And so, when you feel that sudden need to leave a place, trust it. When someone's energy feels off, even if they're smiling, trust it. When a situation looks perfect but your spirit tightens, trust it. You are not being dramatic. You are being divinely guided. You were not created to live numb. You were created to live aware, deeply, unapologetically, prophetically aware. So, stop apologizing for feeling everything. Stop shrinking your perception to make others comfortable. Stop silencing your intuition for the sake of being accepted. Because what you feel, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. Honor it, trust it, let it guide you like the sacred compass it is, and most of all, protect it. Because in a world that forgets how to feel, your sensitivity is a light in the dark. Chosen one. Have you noticed how people open up to you without even knowing you? Moments where your mere presence brings peace, even if you say nothing at all? Have you realized that you inspire trust, but also awaken discomfort in those who are not yet ready? For the truth, that's not random. It's not luck. It's not a social gift. It's frequency, because beyond your appearance, beyond your story, beyond your achievements or your scars, you carry a vibration that cannot be faked, an essence that transcends language, an energy that cannot be learned. It must be remembered. When God formed you, He didn't just give you a body, He gave you a code, a spiritual pattern, a prophetic frequency, an ancient melody that only awakens through the fire of process. That's why your path has been so deep. That's why you've cried more than you've spoken. That's why there were days when you felt completely unraveled, because in every crack, God was placing sound. Yes, sound. Your silence has never been empty. It was sacred. Every time you felt out of place, heaven was drawing a boundary around your soul. Every time you withdrew, you were entering divine alignment. Every moment of solitude was your spirit realigning with the mission you carry. You see, the pain of isolation was not punishment, it was refinement. You were not being excluded, you were being entrusted. Your solitude was not emptiness, it was preservation. And now, in this very moment, you begin to understand that what made you feel like too much for the world was exactly what made you perfectly enough for your calling, your spiritual sensitivity, your longing for silence, your need for peace, your intuition that screams in crowds, your discernment that never turns off. All of it was heaven's fingerprint. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. You've just been walking among a world that doesn't speak your language. But now the time of silence ends. Now begins the time of activation. This is your confirmation. You have not been forgotten. You have been preserved. And as you walk forward from here, don't diminish what you carry, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs your clarity. It doesn't need more followers. It needs more lights. And your light, rare, fierce, and refined by fire, is about to illuminate everything that once seemed hidden. So I ask you now, if these words spoke directly to your soul, if something inside you feels seen, recognized, awakened, comment the number 111. It is the number of sacred completion and divine transition. It marks the closing of one cycle and the beginning of another. By writing it, you're not just affirming what you've heard, you're declaring to heaven and earth, I am ready. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, do it now. Because every new message you'll receive here was designed like a map, a light post for those who are finally remembering who they are. The path will not always be easy, but you were not called for easy. You were called for sacred. Now, walk as one who know heaven has already recognized you.